Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. We will start in a bit. We're just waiting for the other participants to come here. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So we will start now. So yeah, we will talk about ChatGPT. And again, this is just the first session out of the three total sessions that we will be having regarding ChatGPT. For this session, you will really learn more about the foundations of this new application that has caused an uproar in the tech scene. So for the experts that we have here in this meeting, can you please turn on your camera? If possible. It can turn on. Okay. It stopped. Host has stopped it. Hold on. Hold on. We're just fixing some technical issues. While we are waiting for the fixing of the technical issues, other participants here can post their questions regarding ChatGPT. We'll read them later.
Hi, Jude.
Hello, hello. There, I can see you now.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
Nice to see you guys. Long time no see. Okay, I think we'll do some introductions first before we start the discussions. Again, this is going to be informal. It's just really for the public to know more about ChatGPT and how they can possibly use this, and of course, the ethical implications of such. So first of all, I would like to introduce Dr. Charibeth Cheng. Dr. Chari is a full professor in De La Salle University's College of Computer Studies. She's also a senior researcher at the LSU Center for Language Technologies, as well as the co-founder of Senti AI. Chari and her students work on constructing computational models that process text written in the Filipino language. They have not only published papers, but have also shared NLP models built using transformers, including multiple Tagalog Filipino language models that have been fine-tuned to perform text categorization, translation, and conversation. These Filipino language models have been used by other NLP researchers. Hi, Dr. Chari. How are you?
Hi, Jude. I'm fine. Excited for this talk.
Thank you. Excited to hear more about your thoughts about this tool that we have right here, which is ChatGPT. Okay, next is Dr. Daniel Stanley Tan. So he is an assistant professor at Open Universiteit, Netherlands, and an adjunct faculty at the Asian Institute of Management. He obtained his PhD in computer science from National Taiwan University of Science and Technology, and then spent a year as a postdoctoral researcher at Academia Sinica. Prior to this, he worked as a research engineer at Inventec Corporation and held an assistant professor position at the De La Salle University, Manila. His research interests include deep learning, computer vision, and generative modeling. Hi, Sir Stan.
Hello.
Are you currently in Taiwan right now, or in the Europe, or here in the Philippines?
Netherlands.
Netherlands, you're
Yeah.
in Netherlands, okay. Because you have lots of affiliations, I'm not sure where you are right now.
So primarily based in Netherlands,
In
but I
Netherlands,
still
right?
collaborate with people in the Philippines.
Okay, okay. Nice to see you again, sir. And finally, Mr. Joseph Marvin Imperial. So Joseph is a doctoral researcher at the University of Bath's integrated PhD program in accountable, responsible, and transparent AI, also called ART AI. His research is funded by the UK Research and Innovation Center for Doctoral Training Program. As a member of the Responsible AI Licenses Initiative, he is interested in helping the government shape better regulatory policies for powerful AI models, including large language models like ChatGPT, to maximize their full potential in various fields such as in education, research, and business while maintaining responsible use. Prior to this, he has extensively worked on NLP for educational assessment and social media understanding, particularly in low resource, multilingual readability assessment, as well as thematic analysis of social media posts in the case of disasters. He is currently based in the UK and on study leave from the Department of Computer Science and Human Language Technology Lab at the National University, Philippines. Hi, Marvin.
Hi, nice to see you again. Nice to see you
Nice to
again,
see you again.
Doc Chari.
So those are our experts, and yeah, I'll be your moderator for this session. I am Jude, and I'm currently working as a data scientist and data engineer, and I'm also a faculty member here at Salle University. Okay, before we start, I would just like to share that I personally know our experts here. Sir Stan and Ms. Chari are my profs back then when I was still studying as an undergrad, and Joseph is actually one of my students before in masters when I was teaching NLP here in DLSU. So nice to see you guys again. It's been a long time that I have seen you. So I hope you're doing well. You're in various parts of the continent, somewhere in Europe, somewhere in the Philippines. And now we have gathered here to talk about this tool that has caused, again, an uproar in the tech scene. And I believe lots of people are becoming more aware of AI and are now interested to use it because of what you can see right now, the advancements and the rapid development in the field, particularly in the NLP subfield of AI. So our audience have lots of questions later, but for now, let's talk about ChatGPT at a high level. So, Sir Stan, what is ChatGPT and language models in general? Can you expound more about that? Can you tell us more about this?
So maybe I'll start with what a language model is. So a language model is basically just a model that captures the probability of a sequence of tokens. And you can think of these tokens as words for simplicity. So you can think of it as a model that captures the probability of a sequence of words. And in the case of ChatGPT, they try to model this as the next word prediction. So what is the probability of seeing the next word given the words that I have seen before? And ChatGPT is kind of like the more recent versions of these language models that has probably gained the most attention because of the capabilities that it has shown. And these capabilities are actually more emergent. Like just by training on this next word prediction task, it has able to generalize to across multiple tasks. Yeah, and this is probably because of one, the large amount of data that it has been trained on. And you could think of next word prediction. I mean, it might be a big jump. Like, how can a model learn to perform these tasks just by predicting the next word? But I think we already have seen something like this before. For example, AlphaGo and chess, they're just trained on what is the next best move given the configuration of my chessboard. What is the next best move given the configuration of my AlphaGo board? A Go board. And this is not really that different from the language, that what is the next best word given the current words that I see now, right? And you could also think of another perspective, that a lot of natural language tasks can be phrased in this way. Like, for example, question answering. So if I give you the question, then the next words that comes out is most likely the answer, right? And you could phrase this question in a clever way such that it performs different tasks. For example, what is the, I don't know, Tagalog of computers? What is the Tagalog of something? And now you have kind of emulated a translation task within a question answering task that can be phrased as the next word prediction. And I think this is what makes it learn all these tasks despite no explicit supervision for these tasks. Yeah. Did I answer that? Well,
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing about language models in general. So this means that ChatGPT is one example of language model, right? How about the other language models that have existed back then before ChatGPT? Can you share more about that?
well, the earliest that I would probably know would be the n-gram models, which is just
Yeah.
literally
That's basic.
a fixed width of, for example, what is the probability of two words being next to each other? So it kind of started there. And I think for the history between that, maybe Doc Chari would be the better person to talk about this.
All right, let's proceed to Dr. Shari. So Dr. Shari, can you share your thoughts about that and NLP fields in general?
So what Stan said is correct. So among one of the earliest, if not the earliest technique used to model a language is the n-gram technique. And the n-gram is still a language model that is probabilistic. So most of there are actually two techniques where NLP solutions can be built. It can be through the probabilistic theory or through the linguistic theory. So these language models, they are built through the probabilistic theory. Now, in n-grams, what is being predicted there, prediction happens because it simply counts the number of times certain words co-occur together. So it counts from the data set how many times X appeared before Y and Y appeared after X, etc. So from these counts, using conditional probabilities, so given I saw X and Y, what's the probability that Z would be the next word? But the problem with that technique is it's a bit slow because we need to count the probabilities for a sequence of tokens or words in a very sequential manner. So when machine language came about for the RNN, which were now built using, which were designed because to handle sequential data. Now, inputs can be in longer sequences, and what makes RNNs or machine learning techniques handle long sequences better and understand the language better. So, which means model the language better is the attention mechanism that is present in the transformer. So before, we always look at all the words that preceded a word and after the word to do the prediction. Right now, through attention, there is a way to choose just which words to attend to. So we don't attend to all the words. So given a sentence, some words are more important to another and some are just really not insignificant. So no need to attend to them. With transformers, the attention mechanism is now done in parallel. So it can see and process all the words in the sequence at the same time. So let's say let's think of an actual example. So let's say in Filipino, there's a sentence, nang makita niyang mahaba ang pila, kumain muna si Chari. So in English, when she saw there's a long line, Chari decided to eat. So for the machine to be able to understand that sentence, he has to process each word. Now, when it encounters the pronoun she, it has to know who she is. Now, if we are to process it in the old way, to be able to understand who she is, the model should see so many words before and after she. With transformers, before going to transformers, with machine learning that has attention mechanism, the processing is still sequential. So when it reaches the word she, it hasn't seen the word Chari yet. So it doesn't know that she is actually Chari. With transformers, the processing of all the words in that sentence, seeing that there is a long line, when she saw that there's a long line, Chari decided to eat. The processing is done at the same time. So she and Chari attend to each other instantaneously. So the relationship between the two words were done more effectively both in time and space by the transformer. And because of that power, it is able to understand the language better. And I gave a very simple example with a very short sentence. So the transformer can actually process very long sequences of words to the point of even a document. So it sees a lot of context at the same time, and the context establishes the relationships among the words. That's how far the technology has gone. So from simply seeing the words that are surrounding a word, another word, so two window size, three window size, now it is seeing the words that co-occur with it in long spans of sequences, and it is done at the same time. So that's why it's very powerful.
I'd actually like to add to that. So Dr. Chari mentioned something like an RNN a while ago. So the main issue there is that it processes things sequentially. So you could think of it as looking at the words one by one in sequence. Now, the problem with this is it has to remember somehow in that model all the previous words that it has seen. And what Dr. Chari was mentioning about the attention, the difference is I don't input things one by one anymore, but rather I look at them all at the same time. And I can now pick and choose. I don't have to remember because it's right in front of me, right? And of course, this trades off memory, compute, but now we have very powerful machines that can handle it, so it's now doable. Yeah. Yes, that's it.
Maybe I can add
Yeah,
just
go ahead,
to
Joseph.
just to string everything up. If you look at the word, if you look at the name ChatGPT, it's basically a variation of the GPT model, which stands for the G stands for generative, which Dr. Stan mentioned as a way to generate words one by one. Pre-trained is where this particular model, ChatGPT, has been trained with hundreds and thousands of data from the internet, from social media, Wikipedia, software, books, and so on. And then the transformer, the last one, the T, stands for the transformer architecture, which makes use of the attention mechanism that Doc Chari has mentioned. So the word chat there, ChatGPT is a GPT model that has been specifically enhanced to be conversational. Okay, so if you open ChatGPT's website, or if you open the blog, you'll see there some mention of what you call reinforcement learning from human feedback, which is just a fancy way. I'm not going to explain it, but it's quite technical. But it's an advanced way of incentivizing the model to be able to converse the same way as we humans do. So that's why it's so good at if you've tried it, it's so good at answering your questions, but you have to take it with a grain of salt. Not all the responses that it generates are factual. So, but it's entertaining nonetheless. So let's leave it at that, and then we can have the ethics questions later.
Since you already mentioned GPT, so the initial GPT is actually an attempt to create models train models in an unsupervised way. So the reason why language models work better, or at least generalize, is much better than some of the tasks that are trained in a supervised way is because you have now access to a very, very big data set that you don't have to manually label. So before, the individual tasks, you have to collect a data set and you have to annotate what is the ground truth answers. But with language modeling, I just need text from the internet, text from books, whatever text, I can already predict the next word given the words before it. So it kind of unlocked this way of training the models across large data sets without having access to labels.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to say something about the feedback that Joseph was mentioning. So that kind of, I would say, workaround or scheme is trying to align the answers of ChatGPT to what humans kind of expect. Yeah. And personally, I think the contribution there is really the feedback. So you can, there's a, if you have used ChatGPT, you can kind of see how you could control the answers based on how you interact with it. So for example, I give it a sentence. Can you make this more concise? Oh, can you change the first sentence to this? So there's kind of a human control feedback that's happening here. And that's one of the reasons why ChatGPT produces things that are really, what do we call this? Reasonable for us, is because it has been trained to align or match human expectations. Yeah.
Yeah, to add, what is different about the way we build the solutions now with these pre-trained language models is that GPT alone is a language model, and by itself, it is already a universal generic language processing tool that understands the language. So since it has seen so much data, GPT alone is already a language processing tool. It knows the vocabulary of the language, the grammar of the language, and to some extent, semantics. And because of that language model, just like as shown by OpenAI and what it did to ChatGPT, that language model was used to just add additional language skills to that model. So from something that simply just predicts the next word and understands the model, it was trained to converse. So before, in the old way of building things, we have to teach the model the language, we have to teach the model how to converse. Now, with this pre-trained, since they are pre-trained language model, if I want a new system that can summarize, let's say paraphrase, not using ChatGPT, I could simply fine-tune. So using GPT, I show it a new task given some data that performs the task. Let's say it's summarization, and it will learn the task now. So I don't have to build from scratch and look for so many samples of the language because it already knows my language. The job now is to teach it a new task. So that's the way it's done now. So that's how different the way things are being done to develop new language solutions through these language models. So parang bata. So it's like you already have a child who knows the language. Now we will teach it how to become a better speaker. So I give it samples of documents whose vocabulary is deeper, sentence structure is longer, and then automatically the child would learn that task because it already knows the language, the basics of the language.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there anything that you'd like to add before I summarize things that you have just discussed right now? No, okay. So yeah, as our experts have mentioned, ChatGPT is a generative pre-trained model. That's why there's GPT there. And it has been trained using the internet data, so much of it really, that it was able to understand lots of context, and you can fine-tune it to specific tasks. You could use it for summarization, you could use it for basically for general conversation overall. And you have also mentioned about the transformer model, which we will talk about later. So I think this is one key component of that ChatGPT tool, and also the reinforcement learning component of it, the feedback mechanism. So can you share more about the applications of such tool, Joseph, in NLP in general?
Yeah, so first we'll have to look at what ChatGPT is good at. It's good at making a conversation with a human, but it can also be good at certain things, such as if you try to ask ChatGPT to summarize, it can summarize things for you. So if you find it useful, if you find it useful in your job, in your research, and so on, it can definitely improve your productivity. It can also help you with code. So for example, if you try to ask ChatGPT to generate the correct regular expression, if that's applicable to you, then it will most likely give you some response. But again, you have to check for its validity, okay? Because everything that ChatGPT answers, it's only based from what it has seen in the training data. So if the training data is from say biased, it can amplify the bias, but I know that OpenAI has some form of moderation techniques to flag certain biases. But again, in terms of applications, it's good at summarizing, it's good at generating code for you, but you have to validate it. It's good at what else? It can even generate tables for you if you have tried. So yeah, that's where ChatGPT are most advantageous. If you find that useful for your work, it can definitely increase your productivity. That's the type of impact I see in terms of application. So yeah.
I would like to agree with that. Yeah, as a programmer and as a data scientist, I actually try to use it from time to time. I use it to create the overall template and then I just edit it because sometimes it's wrong. I just modify a few things and yeah, it helps me in my work because it's like 90 or 95% of the code is there and then just modify it for, some parts where it's wrong. So thank you for sharing that.
To add to that, I actually think maybe in the next 5 years from now, language models for coding would probably be much better than language models for English language, for example. The reason why I think this would be so is because language is inherently ambiguous. So there are words in or sentences that you could say and could kind of have different meanings to different people. But for code is kind of made to be precise, right? So there's no ambiguity in that sense. Of course, there's the question of program equivalence. But I do think because of lesser ambiguity, there's more chances of it being able to learn complex codes.
Yeah, and I agree. And the vocabulary for programming languages is also smaller. So the combinations of sentences and statements that can come out wrong is also smaller because the vocabulary is smaller. So for those who are majoring in computer science or any of the computing field, so this is the kind of that technology that you would see once you are working, if you're still studying now. So you need to equip yourself to be able to adapt with the technology that is out there. Because if they can do this for very dynamic natural language, what more can be done on artificial languages that are smaller and stricter?
All right, thank you for that. Now let's proceed to another important component of ChatGPT, which is the transformer model in general. So why is it only now? Why is it that NLP compared to other subfields of AI in general is having its so-called image net moment just now? So what's happening? What's with the transformer model? Why just now? I will ask Stanley about that, about transformer model.
Well, to begin with, the Transformers was just kind of invented 2017, I think. Well, it's around 6 years from now. So that's why it's only now taking off. And back then, there was still questions on how to train these properly. There were nuances that so the whole, let me take a step back. So what is a transformer? Or the whole paradigm of deep learning or neural networks is to have these building blocks. So some kind of Lego blocks that you could chain together to build your model. And the goal of these Lego blocks is to learn representations of your input that is optimal for your task. Okay? So before you had simple blocks like dense layers or fully connected layers, convolutional layers. Now the transformer is kind of an engineered block that combines several aspects of this plus an attention. So as talked about a while ago, the attention kind of allows you to look at everything in the input and aggregate the words that are relevant for your prediction task, right? So you can think of this as just a big weighted average across the words, and the attention are kind of how much weight do you assign to a particular word in that input sequence. Okay. And then you stack some fully connected layers on top of this to get some nonlinearity out of it. So I'm getting a bit more complex, but the basic idea is you gather the words, pick and choose the words that are relevant to you for the prediction task, and you do some complex transformation of this to represent it in a way that is useful for me. So that's what the transformer block is kind of doing in a very, very high level sense. Now, of course, this entails more computation as opposed to the previous models, because I have to keep track of everything instead of being able to let go after an input has been processed, right? Before it was processing inputs one by one, so I don't have to store all the words before. Now I have to store all of them every single time. And I guess throughout 2017 to now, there were questions on how to make this more efficient. How do I better capture sequences, for example? So one of the things that we haven't really talked about is the transformer. If you look at it in the basic components, there's nothing there that accounts for the sequence. And the way they make it capture sequence is through what they call positional embeddings. So they add an extra input to the words to tell it that this is the first, this is the second, this is the third. It's not as simple as that, but it's something like that. And so I guess throughout 2017 to 2022, when ChatGPT was released, there were questions on how to make this more efficient, not just computational wise, but more on the processing of the sequence, stacking these Lego blocks together. What's the best configuration of doing this? Is it really better to model it as a next word prediction, or there's another like branch of language models that does it as a bidirectional encoding? So like the sentences that you see can be processed forward from left to right or right to left, and there are models that tries to explore doing both left to right and right to left, as opposed to the ChatGPT that does things in one direction. So these were the questions that people were kind of experimenting on. And I believe what made the biggest difference now is not only the compute that they had. So there's to train the ChatGPT, if you look at the paper, it was like several billions of parameters, several billions of data. And it takes like, I think, 30 years of GPU time. So if you compute the cost of that, it would cost millions of dollars to train one of these. And that's also part of the reason why it progressed. It took like $3 million just to train one of these. And that's, I would say this is one of the biggest reasons why it took so long from 2017, is because only a select few organizations can actually run experiments on this. And they don't figure it out right away, right? They have to do experiments. So the $3 million cost is not just training the model. There's a lot of overhead before that, experimenting on what works and what doesn't. And small labs probably don't have access to this to contribute. Yeah.
And to add to the cost, Stan, there's also the cost on the human labor that was needed on creating the data set, because the conversations on which ChatGPT was trained on were human generated. They simulated the chat, right? And then used that to feed. So imagine how much money was spent in paying those people just to create those conversations.
Yeah.
Right. And then after that, that's one part of human labor. The other part is in coming up with the reward system, identifying which responses of ChatGPT are better than others. So that one, somebody would have to label. Again, that's another cost. It's not computing, but still it's a considerable cost that small labs wouldn't be able to do.
Yes. And I would think eventually, maybe several years from now, someone would figure out a way to remove the human labeling and automatically have this alignment. So the problem is there's many ways to continue a sentence, right? Next word predictions. There's many possible choices. Which sequence of words would make better sense for us? And right now it's hard to define. So we offset or offload that task to humans. But maybe later on, some smart guy would figure out a way to better define this and learn this automatically.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Also agree with the experts. So yeah, hope it happens a few years from now so that we could focus on the things that do really matter. Just to summarize, so again, for the transformer model, it was possible now because of the compute and of course the research funding that was put into it. So many researchers have been working on developing these models, and then there's just this the compute that we can leverage now, unlike before, and the big data, of course, definitely. So we have so many questions right now. I will be reading some of them. I'll be reading the most recent one because I think that this is too relevant. So what is the environmental cost of ChatGPT? I've read some papers about this, but I would love to know more about the thoughts of our experts about this.
I actually don't know, but I think it's a considerable footprint, right? In terms just on the compute, the power that was needed or that was consumed to train it, and right now deploying it. Stan, would you have any idea?
I am actually just searching now. So carbon footprint of training ChatGPT is estimated to be 552 tons of CO2.
Right, diba?
Because it's a lot. It's really a lot.
It might be equivalent to, I heard in one conference, some researchers are trying to show that it's equivalent to like flying one plane from one average costing plane if you are going to try to train your own model. So at that particular impact in terms of environmental cost.
Yeah. So hopefully that's an area of development or advancement that hopefully we could see in the future. There hopefully would be a more efficient way of computing such that less footprint would be left behind by such technologies.
Agree on
So
that.
someone actually said it's equivalent to driving a car to the moon and back.
And this is
driving
daily,
a
right?
car?
A car to the moon and back. That's the cost of it. Environmental cost.
Hello, Joseph, and hello, Stan,
Hi,
this
Doc
is,
Mac.
Doc Mac is here.
yeah, I'm here actually listening to your conversation. No? It's very nice. So I have a question here. Perhaps this one is for Joseph. Yeah.
Mhm.
Can you see some threat of this advanced search engine to service-related jobs like customer service, support agent? So it could face the biggest threat to their jobs.
Well, in the perspective of as someone studying social science and impact of AI, you don't actually need to fully trust the response or whatever output you have from ChatGPT. Although it's very conversational, but again, there is this very active research area of controlling hallucinations from ChatGPT. So sometimes it can make up things. So if you are planning to, say, if you're a company and you're planning to adapt the level of conversation for ChatGPT, it's still an active research area. What else? There are certain areas that needs to be improved, even on the side of the creators of ChatGPT. So that's also the reason why there's no open AI connection yet with ChatGPT that companies can adapt, but most probably in the future there will be. And going back to the question of adapting this in your business or threats of jobs, I see it as an increase in productivity. So if you're working in a customer service field, you can use ChatGPT to your advantage to increase your productivity. It's talking about threats of losing your job, losing jobs in the market is quite a trivial task, which is I understand because of how these technologies are hyped in the media. But again, there is most likely another need for human intervention, for human mediator. If you're from the marketing, if you're from the advertisement, your creativity, human creativity, will still be important as ever. But it can be improved, it can be enriched with the use of ChatGPT because it's so good at things such as summarizing, uh, being a conversational agent, and so on. So view it as an increase in productivity rather than a grave threat in the job market.
Yeah. So follow-up question, Joseph. No. So do you use also for Doc Chari and Stan? Do you personally use ChatGPT? I mean, like for generating something for you or actively using ChatGPT?
I was given an early access of ChatGPT, and then I was trying to actually break or try to elicit some form of response from it because OpenAI has this form has this survey where you can submit different different outputs that should not be as a response of ChatGPT. So that's one thing I'm doing with ChatGPT. I'm trying to help OpenAI look for certain pitfalls that have not been flagged by their moderation API. But as of now, I'm not integrating it yet for my research.
But yeah, thank you. One question pala, kasi I used ChatGPT once and then there's a feedback mechanism, di ba? So you can thumbs up, thumbs down. And then the discussion kanina was using transformer only. So how do you incorporate the feedback to your model? I mean, system level lang ha.
Yeah.
System level. So I don't know, anyone could answer.
As your question is, as a user, can we incorporate our feedback into the? I don't think we could. But OpenAI,
in the learning procedure.
I think OpenAI should be using that in the reward system because they have this reward system that teaches that is being used by the reinforcement learning part. So as we rate, so which is the thumbs up and thumbs down, now they're using us to provide ratings on the responses of ChatGPT. But that's okay. So to improve the technology, so based on generated responses that are preferred by the users, that can be input to the reward model that they have, that can be used by the reinforcement learning module to improve the responses that will be generated next time.
I'd like to add to that, and I might dig a bit deeper. So right now they're using what they call a reinforcement learning, which kind of rewards the model for doing or aligning to the target, and you can think of it as penalizing if it doesn't align to the target. And the reason why, at least in my perspective, the reason why they use RL to incorporate these human feedback is because it's a bit hard to define a mathematical goal right now for human preference, right? And reinforcement learning has a way to provide signals, let's just say that, compute signals from examples without knowing the mechanism in between. Yeah, so if you're more technical, it can backpropagate through a non-differentiable module. But I would think if someone can phrase this, and someone will phrase this as more of a supervised learning task. So in particular, the ranking aspect. So there's a label for the human feedback to rank the responses. And this, I would think, could be phrased in a more supervised learning. And the reason why I think it would eventually move to supervised learning is because supervised learning provides more signals to your model to learn. Unlike reinforcement learning, it only provides weak signals. And I don't know if I should dig deeper, but yeah, at the high level, that is it. And I think it's because it's the first attempt, and we, as a community, we don't know yet what best way to incorporate feedback into the model. And but this is one way to do it. But I'm not sure if it is the way to do it. And I'm pretty sure we'll see more advancements of this in the coming years.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing those things and digging deeper a little bit on those topics. So another relevant question that I'm seeing here is what happens if the model is fed conflicting information? For example, if there are several documents which state that the capital of Australia is Sydney and several other documents which say that it is Canberra, what will the AI ultimately answer when asked the question? What is the capital of Australia?
When you feed ChatGPT with that type of data, it will amplify the same quality. So for example, if ChatGPT is mostly trained with data from the internet, which is not really the best place if you are so much exposed to the internet. So it will amplify biases, it will amplify discrimination, what else? Hate speech and so on. But the thing is, there is an additional process that OpenAI, the creator of ChatGPT, adds to ChatGPT, and it's called the moderation API. If you try to ask ChatGPT about, can you generate who is the better race in the world, it will flag that. It will just give a template answer that says, I'm just an AI model. I'm not capable of reasoning, things like that, and so on. So again, it's because of this particular post-processing task or additional API that's added with ChatGPT that it kind of blocks all responses that are in the same topic as, say, hate speech, what else? Discrimination, biases, and so on. Because they know that ChatGPT, if they don't add this particular flagging technique, it will be very consequential. Okay, it can just spout out anything that it learns from the training data.
Yeah. So to add to that, GPT models or ChatGPT does not know what fact is and what's not. So it just knows, or it's just looking at statistics, like what articles or what statements appear most often. And we're kind of relying on this, that the facts appear more often than the not factual stuff. But of course, it's not always the case. And that's why you shouldn't rely on ChatGPT for factual information. And there's a lot of funny things, like I remember reading a post about ChatGPT arguing that 9 was prime or 27 was prime, and it was creating very convincing arguments that sounds authoritative but is very, very wrong. Yeah.
We can call it as, I mean, ethicists call it as stochastic parrots, right? I mean, when you say stochastic, it's random, and then parrots meaning it just says things that don't make sense. So you have to, if you're going to use ChatGPT, take it with a grain of salt.
And it's a confident parrot because it has a good grasp of the language. So the choice of words is very convincing. So you have to be very careful.
Agree. So perhaps this one is related to the last point as mentioned, and also a preview to the next session. So the question is, I heard from other university in Manila that they already banned this ChatGPT from their website, since students will just take some information or samples like research papers, or students will not think anymore. So how the LSU handle this ChatGPT issue? I mean, technology. Or do we have a policy on ChatGPT, or do we need to impose something similar to mentioned in the question? Doc Chari, perhaps the best.
Kasi ako yung pinakamatanda. We don't have a policy yet right now in the LSU regarding the use of ChatGPT. And I would think that the community would be split, because I personally see the benefit of using ChatGPT. And I agree fully with Joseph that it increases productivity. People just have to be aware what the limitations are. And even if we ban the use of ChatGPT and similar tools in the university, they could just use it at home, right? So I think it is more important for academe to make the students aware of this kind of technology, how it does its tasks and its limitations, as well as its potential, because our students would have to prepare themselves of what's going to happen 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So right now, awareness is key. We have to know how to live with these types of technology. So there were talks earlier about threats. Whenever there's an industrial revolution, a technology that's meant to disrupt the industry, talagang merong threat, di ba? But as I've told my students, they need to make themselves competitive. And one way to make themselves competitive is to know how to use these technologies for their own benefit. As Jude shared earlier, ChatGPT can generate code, but number one, it's incomplete. Number two, most likely it's wrong. Knowing that that's the case, it could still be helpful to us, because it can come up with suggestions when we are stuck, right? Or it can come up with a skeleton of what we are planning. And then, but we need to come in. Humans have to come in to check, to validate, and to correct. So the same thing with, let's say, coming up with essays or asking students to come up with the essay. If they come up, use ChatGPT. I've told my students, if you submit to me something that I have validated to have come from ChatGPT, syempre, that's plagiarism, because it was ChatGPT who wrote it. It's not them who wrote it. And similar policies are there for publication venues. Pero can they use ChatGPT? Of course they can use ChatGPT. Can they use ChatGPT to to get ideas on how to write things. Of course, I personally use ChatGPT. I also use Killbot that can paraphrase my paragraphs so that they sound better formally or more fluent, di ba? Because we always have to maximize the technology that are available to us to make ourselves competitive.
Thank you for sharing that, Ms. Shari. And actually, we will be discussing more of those in our next session. And the next session is titled ChatGPT and Other Generative Models in Art, Creative Writing, and Journalism. But yes, I would like to echo what you have just said, Ms. Shari. Yes, I also do encourage the use of such tools in my class because, I mean, we have to prepare our students for that. And I mean, as long as they know the limitations of such, then there's no issue. Just know that you can do these things and you will have to modify things later on to suit your needs. So yes, I do agree with you.
To close.
But not everyone shared the same opinion.
Yes,
Jude.
yes, yes, I do know. That's also my opinion. But yeah, I do encourage the use of those for us to be more prepared about this. In any case, I think we're a bit over time. We will be ending the session now. I would like to thank everyone who attended here and also, of course, our esteemed experts for sharing their thoughts and knowledge about ChatGPT in general. I know that this is a very hard topic to, of course, discuss because this is relatively new and we're still grasping how to use this and the full extent of such tool. But hopefully, we will come to a better understanding of this tool in the near future. And I hope more developments in the field of AI and NLP, because this is also something that I'm really passionate about. So any last words or parting words, Doc Mac, for the next few sessions?
No last word.
Okay, no last words, apparently. Yeah, thanks everyone. Hope you learned a lot about ChatGPT in this session. We will be addressing all the questions that you have just posted here. There's a lot, so we will be doing them offline.
Ang daming mga gandang tanong, Jude.
Yeah,
I wish we could
lots
answer
actually.
them. They're
But
so
we
good.
don't have much time actually. But yes, I agree with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc Chari, Stan, and Joseph. Let's have a quick
Thank
picture.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
Okay, one.
Wait, let me close
Jessica,
this
if you're there.
Then I'll just do print screen.
Okay, 1,
2, 3. Okay, done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next session.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.